Over 4,500 people are living on a single aircraft carrier, and a new sailor has 48 hours to learn how not to die among them. Jet launches cause permanent hearing damage in seconds. The corridors run for miles. The ship has its own hospital, zip code, and power plant. On day one, nobody holds anyone's hand. From the moment boots hit that deck, the clock is running. But here's what nobody tells anyone before boarding. The Navy assumes something from the second a sailor steps aboard. If an emergency happens tonight, that sailor must already know how to survive it. There is no adjustment period, no slow introduction. What separates the sailors who adapt from the ones who break starts immediately. Before a new sailor arrives, the Navy assigns them a sponsor, an experienced sailor already aboard who is supposed to help with logistics and check-in. In a perfect world, that relationship starts weeks before arrival. But it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes communication breaks down. Sometimes the sponsor is deployed. And sometimes that sailor arrives at the pier carrying a sea bag with no familiar face waiting. The sailor reports through the afterbrow, a ramp leading from the pier onto the ship. It hits immediately. The noise, the smell of jet fuel, metal, and ocean air. The vibration from machinery running non-stop deep below deck. From the outside, an aircraft carrier looks enormous. From the inside, it feels like being dropped into an underground city with no map and no windows. The first stop is personnel, paperwork, signatures, security briefs, medical checks. Hours disappear inside fluorescent-lit offices buried deep inside the ship. But while the new sailor moves from desk to desk, the carrier keeps operating at full speed overhead. Jets launch. Machinery shakes the decks. Drills continue somewhere in the distance. The ship does not care that it's someone's first day. Then comes berthing assignment. The wreck. The first real shock of carrier life. On land, a bed is just a bed. On an aircraft carrier, the rack becomes an entire world compressed into a space barely larger than a coffin. Sailors share berthing compartments with dozens of other people. The racks stack 3 high. Every sailor gets one small locker under the mattress. That is the entire private world for the next 6 to 9 months. The noise never stops. Pipes run overhead. Air systems hum constantly. Sailors work rotating shifts around the clock, so someone is always sleeping while someone else is getting dressed, walking through the compartment, or returning from watch. But there is one rule every sailor learns fast. Never assume you'll be allowed to finish what you're doing. Because at 3 in the morning, a general quarters alarm can erupt through the ship. Every person has to move immediately to their emergency station. No stopping to get dressed, no waiting, just move. Even basic routines become harder aboard a carrier. Sailors grab their shower gear and move through crowded passageways, half awake and exhausted. They take what's called a Navy shower. Wet down, water off, soap up, rinse, done. About 90 seconds. The ship produces fresh water for thousands, and every drop is shared across the crew. That first night, most sailors barely sleep. The noise alone makes sure of that. Day one still isn't over. New sailors receive a check-off list requiring visits to dozens of departments for briefs and signatures. The Navy forces intentional exploration because nobody learns a carrier by sitting still. The ship stretches over 1,000 feet, with multiple decks stacked above and below. Every compartment has a number stamped onto the bulkhead. Getting lost during an emergency is not a minor mistake, and this is the moment new sailors discover the most dangerous thing on the carrier isn't the enemy outside. It's the ship itself. The critical stop is damage control. Ask Navy veterans what the single most important thing a new sailor learns aboard a carrier is, and many will answer the same way. Damage control. It means learning how to save the ship when something goes wrong. Fire, flooding, combat damage, a burst pipe, an explosion. A carrier operates thousands of miles from port. If disaster happens, the crew handles it alone. New sailors learn every fire station, damage control locker, and emergency exit. They learn oxygen apparatus and fire suppressants, and the Navy tests this almost immediately. Before going off watch, sailors must walk from their rack to their general quarters station completely in the dark, every route memorized, every hatch, every ladder, every turn, because in a real emergency, power can fail. Smoke fills the passageways. Vision drops to 0. The sailor still has to move fast. Senior sailors don't accept, "I'll figure it out later." Either learn the routes or repeat them until they're locked in. Most people will never experience pressure like this, but thousands of sailors live it every day aboard these ships. If you respect the men and women who do this, write "proud" in the comments. There is one place on an aircraft carrier that every new sailor wants to see and is kept away from until properly trained: the flight deck. 4.5 acres of steel. FA-18 Super Hornets launching off catapults. Jets slamming into arresting wires during landing. Deck crews in color-coded jerseys moving at full speed around aircraft weighing tons. The sailors working that deck receive hazardous duty pay every month. That single fact says everything about what happens up there. New sailors are not allowed near the flight deck during active operations. Their view comes from camera monitors or vultures row, the observation platform attached to the island structure. And for the first time, the carrier stops feeling like a floating city and starts feeling like a weapon, because what they're watching is the entire purpose of the ship. Every sailor aboard contributes to those launches. The cooks, mechanics, watchstanders, fuel crews, and damage control teams all exist to keep those aircraft flying. Watch standing begins almost immediately. A 4-section schedule means 6 hours on watch, then off for sleeping, eating, training, and doing it all again. The cycle repeats non-stop, whether the carrier is docked or crossing the ocean. There is no Monday to Friday. The ship operates continuously, and so does the crew. That's what the first 48 hours are really building. Not just a sailor who can survive aboard a warship, a sailor who understands why the warship matters. The men and women who step aboard a US Navy aircraft carrier carry something most people never will: the responsibility of standing watch while the rest of the world sleeps. Within 2 days, they learn to navigate a vessel that operates like its own moving city. They memorize emergency routes in darkness. They adapt to sleeping in cramped racks surrounded by dozens of shipmates. They enter work rotations that never stop aboard a vessel that never powers down. What happens during those first 48 hours is not just adjustment, it's transformation. The sailor after 2 days is not the same person who walked aboard. They've learned comfort doesn't matter. Privacy barely exists. Sleep becomes a luxury, not a guarantee. Their safety depends on the crew around them, and the crew depends on them. And this is the part most civilians never fully understand. That transformation doesn't happen through inspiration. It happens through necessity, through being dropped into a system that demands immediate performance and offers no alternative, through realizing the mission continues whether anyone is ready or not. The first 48 hours aboard an aircraft carrier strip away comfort, control, and everything familiar. What remains is a sailor who can function in darkness, under pressure, and on minimal sleep inside a warship that never stops moving. Because on an aircraft carrier, failure is never an individual problem. It threatens everyone aboard.